We're talking the Mighty Ducks on a special Disney 100 episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Hello and welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's August 27th, 2023, and this is episode 112. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah, just on my blog, moviespastandpresent.com. I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's do this thing. I'm particularly stoked today because on the podcast, I'm joined by my buddy and fellow podcaster, Marc Vibbert. Hi, Marc.
Hey, Flying V.
Marc and I have known each other for a long time. And Marc, I can't remember when this was established, but I found out that you were just a huge fan of the Mighty Ducks. And so I added... I've got this list of 100 Disney movies that I've been watching this year in commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company. And I added the Mighty Ducks on this. I mean, mostly because I wanted to see it again, but mostly because of, my respect for you, my friend. I cannot do this list without putting in the Mighty Ducks. Nice. So Marc has graciously joined me today, and we're filming it. So that's fun that we're doing a video version of this as well. But that Marc, we're going to talk about all things Mighty Ducks. Specifically, we want to talk about the 1992 film that I mentioned. That's a Disney classic for sure. And then anything else Mighty Ducks that Marc wants to talk about. So Marc, again, thanks and welcome. It's so nice to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
a little bit different from what we're usually doing together to talk about animation.
Well, Marc has graciously included me as a co-host on many episodes of his Animation Fascination podcast, which is always a blast. And so I just am very honored that you take the time to be on mine. So thanks, friend. Yeah. Marc, tell me or remind me of, I guess, your history with the original Mighty Ducks film from 1992.
So with the first movie, I don't remember exactly if I saw it in theaters or not, but I still distinctly have a memory of driving back home with my grandmother and my mom and my sister in the car from the mall that was like about 30 miles or so from the town that we lived in, and I gotten the VHS copy of the first movie, which is probably somewhere in this house. But I was like so excited to watch the movie on VHS, and I remember just like looking at it and stuff while we were driving home. And then like when I know we're not going to talk as much about the second and third movie, but when the second movie came out, my dad had been working at a movie theater at that point in time. And they had gotten a print-in of the second movie like a few days beforehand. So I remember he had built the movie, and I got to watch the movie by myself in the theater.
How
with
cool!
Him that day. And I used to have a poster from the second movie, and again, I don't know where that went to, but and then I remember I think it was my 13th birthday party. I had like a sleepover, and a bunch of my friends. We watched D3 for the first time, like on VHS too. And then just from there, like in 2002, I went to my first like the NHL Ducks game, and it's off screen over here. I have this whole wall. It's like a Ducks wall in this room that I'm in. So me and my sister, we switched seats at one point during that game. And at one point, a guy came up. And he's like, "Do you know what seat you're sitting in?" And I thought I was going to get in trouble or something. But then they brought me down, and I had been chosen to win like game worn jersey from one of the players on the team. So nice. And we were like all the way in the back, the very very back row. And so I got down there. I was the last person in line. Like at that point on the team, it was like Teemu Selanne and Guy Hebert and Paul Correa. And like all these people in front of me were getting all the players that like I knew the names of on there. I was like, this is still cool, but I'm probably gonna get somebody that I don't know who it is or anything like that. so I get brought out, and the last person was Paul Correa, who was like one of the best players on the team at that time, and for the
and a
Ducks ever in
superstar,
general.
right? I mean,
Yeah. And so I have a framed jersey over here off screen that's signed for Paul Correa. It looks kind of like the D2
Okay.
like Jolly Roger design Ducks logo. It was before they changed to the Anaheim Ducks. But yeah, so that was pretty cool. And then I've just watching that original film is what originally like kind of got me into liking hockey in general too. So I give that first movie credit for that, and that's also then why I became a fan of the actual team. I know there's a documentary now on ESPN Plus that's kind of about the creation of the real NHL team. And my mom, I remember, I think it was like 1993 or 1994. She knew like how much I had liked the movie and the team, so she had written. I don't know who she wrote, but they sent me back like this huge envelope that had like a bumper sticker for the Ducks. It had
Nice, you got some Duck swag.
Yeah, it had like this pin in there for like opening day. That I still have somewhere. It had like a Wild Wing a magnet in there and some other stuff. There's like a letter that was written by the owner and the coach at the time in there. But yeah, I've always liked the Ducks, and then we'll get to it later. But I liked the Game Changers when that was on too. So, but yeah, that's kind of my abridged history and love of the Ducks.
So just briefly before we get into the movie, Mark, so the Ducks kind of launched you into being a hockey fan. Were the Mighty Ducks then your favorite team? Did you have another favorite team, or do you have some other, NHL teams or other teams that you love and that you follow?
It's just the Ducks.
Just the Ducks. Okay, yeah. All Ducks.
Which always surprised people because I used to live in New York State, and they're like, "Oh, you don't like the Sabres or the Rangers or
that's what I was wondering.
The teams close to where you are." I was like, "No, I like the Ducks." Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, Mark, I mean, truth be told, I probably haven't seen this original movie since 1992. Maybe I saw one other time on VHS or something between then. And it's not because I didn't like it. It's just I just had, I saw it, I liked it, and that was it. But it was fun to rewatch it because I feel in a lot of ways it's like a early '90s time capsule.
Yeah.
With its great soundtrack and just the actors and the great child actors and whatnot. But I think also it's a really solid sports movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of hits all the right. Right notes, and and even in the end I was getting a little teary just because it's just so awesome, the way the movie ends. So what do you think makes this 1992 movie just kind of extra special?
I think with this one in particular too is a lot of like, at least within this first movie, it was a lot of the heart that was put into it with like Stephen Brill, like one of the writers and director of it. He went on to do Heavyweights with Judd Apatow, and then has been involved with all the other films and TV shows as well too. But I think incorporating the heart into it, and then kind of flipping using Emilio Estevez in this, kind of like flipping him on his head a little bit of like his persona of how he had been a little bit like within like the late 80s films that he was in, like Breakfast Club or like Outsiders and stuff like that, and kind of like ratcheting it up a little bit. I always like the memes for this movie now too, with like drive drunk, win the championship. So
right.
But, yeah, and I think because there's like the early 90s was like peak kids like sports movie era, like between like this, like other Disney movies like The Big Green,
yeah,
or like Little Giants and all those kind of films, like Sandlot with a lot of the same cast as the Mighty Ducks in it too. So
yeah,
and Mighty Ducks too. So I think think that like that's why it still stands out and is like still like 30 years later, because it's actually celebrating 30 years for that movie this year. That it's such like a beloved movie at this point in time, just because of that.
Yeah. You know, I was trying to think back, Mark. It seemed, though, in a lot of ways that the Mighty Ducks kind of set the standard for the family sports movie. But it didn't necessarily come first, right? As we were talking about, some of these other ones might have come first, but I don't know. Do you think that the Mighty Ducks popularity, made everybody kind of want to copy it, or what's your take on that?
Maybe. Like I know, because like hockey movies, kind of like in the late '80s, early '90s, were kind of popular too. Like
Slapshot. Yeah, so more adult version, right? Grown up version. Yeah. But yeah.
So it's basically like making a kids family version of
Slapshot.
Like even like Happy Gilmore that kind of came out. I mean, that's more like a golf movie, I guess, but it's like a hockey player playing golf.
But still, hockey player
came out pretty much within that same time period, like 92, 93.
Yeah.
So I think it was between that and then like the rise of popularity in hockey in the U.S. during that point of time too. So it's probably like a perfect storm of all of that coming together, and then of course like after the movie coming out, them like making the actual NHL team, and that probably
was just a year after it, right? Wasn't it 1993 that Disney formed the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim? Yeah.
So it's I think that's part of like what helped it like propel it so far too, because of all of these things happening like in conjunction with one another that basically made it what it was.
Thanks for bringing up that point about Emilio Estevez's character, because in a lot of ways he's like playing the character that his brother Charlie Sheen did in Wall Street, right? Just a total scumbag. Who then has this really great redemption arc in the film, which I think is so satisfying. And it's Norm Lewis, isn't it, who plays the coach of the Hawks, who's such a jerk. And anyway, I mean, I think the cast is so great. What do you think about overall the casting? Do you have any favorite cast members between all the youth, and include Emilio Estevez too? And everybody else, any favorites that stand out to you?
Oh man, so like Joshua Jackson obviously is as Charlie Conway.
Yeah, Joshua Jackson, was that his first film? I don't know. I meant to look that up. Yeah, I don't think so.
But like Joshua Jackson, Sean Weiss as Goldberg,
classic.
And then Sean Weiss. Joshua Jackson, oh my god, Danny Tamborelli was in that first movie too. Like went on to be in Pete and Pete and Nickelodeon. There's so many people in that first movie. I'm gonna check. I just go because I don't want to get
check IMDb. Right. I'm looking at you. And I think I said. Oh, go
Eldon
ahead,
Henson.
Oh, Eldon Henson. Yeah, as
Fulton.
Fulton Reed, right? Yeah.
MC Gainey, who went on to be on Lost as the limo driver Lewis in there too.
That's so fun. It was so fun to see MC Gainey, and I had forgotten that he was in it. And I think I might have said, sorry if I said Coach Riley's name wrong. It's Lane Smith, right? Did I call him Norm?
Oh yeah.
I meant Lane Smith. Sorry.
Or some people might know him as Perry White from the New Adventures of Lois and Clark.
Yeah. Wasn't he in the Wonder Years too? Seems like. Yeah.
Aaron Schwartz, I liked a lot in that, who went as Carp, who went on to be like the main character in Heavyweights.
Oh yeah.
Margaret Moreau, who was Connie.
Yes, Connie.
There's Jussie Smollett in this as well too, and there's such a good cast of all the kid cast in this too. Like they went on to
do stuff, really pop their TV shows, and you're right.
Yeah, especially Joshua Jackson. Like nowadays, like Dawson's Creek, and then Fringe and everything else that he's done. I think between like the cast of this, the people that went on to have like I guess like the biggest careers after like post Mighty Ducks were probably Joshua Jackson and Alden Henson. Between them, just between the stuff that they did after, like Alden doing like Daredevil and a few other things like that too. So Alden is still the only one that I've met too. I
met Alden.
Yeah, I wore this jersey when I met him. And my son wore like a Marvel shirt, so we covered both our bases with that. And he's just like, nice jersey, man. So I liked that he was like still into like,
aware.
Yeah, he's like, although it is the wrong number, but it's good that it's at least Charlie, because Fulton and Charlie were best friends. So
even better that he knew the number. Mark, what are your favorite things about this movie?
Oh man,
it's kind of, I know that's a big ask. Maybe your top three, even your top three favorite things.
Well, I like the kind of like all like the training sequences with them, like with the the eggs.
Those are so great, so iconic too. You know.
Yeah, and like during that whole sequence with getting Goldberg not to be scared of getting hit by the puck and just tying him to the.
I love that.
The goal. Yeah. And then they just leave him.
So fun.
It's like, oh, very funny. Okay, all right, guys.
Yeah.
I like the flying V, because I like using that as a pun myself for just my last name with the V. But which is funny because a lot of people that were like very precise on like the whole the real rules of hockey, like how you wouldn't be able to do that because it would be like an instant icing, a penalty because everybody was behind the net at that point. But okay, that's whatever. It's a cool move, and then I mean, there's lots of things that like if everyone's there, they kind of play against that in the second movie too, where like when they try to do the flying V and like Iceland just like rams into them and takes them out because of how basically open it leaves them when they're doing that anyways. But yeah, I think between those two things, and then like that first scene where Bombay, I get maybe that scene, and so the two Bombay scenes that kind of stand out are like him when he first meets the kids and he drives onto the ice in the limo, kind of showing like his personality and trying to his first like impression of all of them.
Yes,
and then when he first debuts like the Ducks jersey to them. And just like that whole speech there. I guess that also goes with when he goes to Mr. Ducksworth and goes to resign and like quack, 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 Mr. Ducksworth. Quack, 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 Mr. Ducksworth.
Yeah.
And the last one, sorry, I'm saying too many of them.
No, you're not. Go for it, man.
When I was an adult, I realized this was a joke that I did not understand watching the movie when I was a kid. But they're like science teacher teaching the team in school, and he's teaching about like molecules and stuff, and the atom display has like different colored molecules on it, and he's like, and what are the blue balls? And all the kids laugh, and then only recently when I watched it, I was like, early 90s Disney movies putting jokes in,
putting hiding jokes like that.
I liked all of the humor and jokes and like all of that kind of stuff throughout the movie. Like, well, I guess you just more recently watched it for the first time.
Yeah, I just watched it a couple days ago.
I guess for you, what stuff stands out?
Well, as I had mentioned earlier, I just loved the 90s-ness of it. I just loved the soundtrack choices that they made, the sports montages, the humor that they used, the great child actors. It was just so fun to see these, actors just so young, so young again.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess it really just felt like watching, just this classic, iconic Disney family movie from that time, from that time period. And I thought it held up really well too. Even though sure it's this time capsule. I mean, really every movie is, right? But I just thought it was really enjoyable, and love the little romantic stuff that was going on with
Bombay and
Coach
Charlie's
Bombay
mom.
and yeah, and
I remember that. I remember that bumped me out when I was younger. That nothing happened from that, and especially between the second and third movie.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, all right, sorry, Charlie.
Yeah. But it was just a totally fun watch. I was so glad I had added it to the list. And also, Mark, kind of it made me a little melancholy because I'll be anxious to hear, kind of what we're going to talk about more with Game Changers and whatnot. But I feel like that movie, that type of movie, is really lost. I don't know. Not that I want to get into, let me rip on, the Walt Disney Studios, but let me rip on the Walt Disney Studios for a minute. In that they're so busy remaking their animated films that I think that they, they're missing out on some of these great, genres, like the family comedy or the family sports movie. That there could be any number of stories, and they've done them in the not too terribly long ago with some of them, but it's frustrating that seems like all we're getting are remakes rather than fun movies like this one. That I think they would entertain the family and that are inspiring and wholesome. With the exception of the blue balls joke, but wholesome.
Which, I mean, they don't put a hat on it. They just say it and then move on.
Yeah,
so
they move on.
If you're an adult watching it, you understand it. If you're a kid, you're like, oh, they're just laughing at haha, I'll laugh too because the kids are laughing.
When you brought that up, I was like, oh yeah, they did sneak that in, didn't they?
Well, I mean, anyway. All those '90s Disney movies have stuff like that, like Man of the House with Chevy Chase and Jonathan Taylor Thomas. There's stuff in that too, and I'll Be Home for Christmas. A lot of Jonathan Taylor Thomas ones have stuff like that.
Put in the dirty jokes that not everybody's gonna get.
Yeah, Blank Check. They all had stuff like that. That was I guess that because I was a kid during all that. That was the peak era. Although that was a really good era of Disney family movies. It was early '90s, Blank Check and Mighty Ducks and Heavyweights and
these theatrical releases. These weren't things that they were just putting straight on a Disney Channel or whatnot. These were they played them in theaters and they won't do that anymore these days. It has to be some movie they think is going to make just truckloads of money, or they won't put it in the theater. Which, again, they're the ones running the business. They they know the kind of numbers they want to reach. I think it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I feel like all these movies would have just been put on to Disney Plus.
They would have been put straight to Disney Plus. Yeah.
Which is a bummer.
Anything else you want to talk about with the '92 movie, Mark? Anything else you think we should address or bring up, or things you wanted to?
I just like overall how the story of that movie is done too, especially with showing the flashbacks of after Bombay becomes the coach of the Ducks, and they show his history of playing on the Hawks as a kid, and that shows his connection with the dude that's still the coach of the Hawks.
The jerk, who's the total jerk, who's still the coach,
and the whole reason he kind of stopped playing hockey was because of his father passing away, and his finding his love again for the game by teaching these kids, and then connecting with Hans, who's running the shop there.
Oh, see, I love that. I love Hans. I love that whole relationship.
And I just overall liked even with Adam Banks and that kind of stuff with him being on the Hawks and then him becoming a part of the Ducks, and they give him the cold shoulder, and then eventually call him Cake Eater. The back of his hat says Cake Eater. And how eventually he would become a ingrained part of that team as well too, going on into the second and third and so on. And I just liked overall, and they are able, I guess we can segue from that into to the other ones. But I like how they were able to incorporate some of these relationships that they start in this movie and build them into like the second and third films too. So it become like those relationships mean more to you by the end of like that third movie, and then incorporating flashbacks in that third movie to certain stuff from like the first and second films plays on nostalgia in the right way, like as far as those flashbacks and that going back to stuff that like really meant a lot to you in this first film.
Yeah. Okay, Mark. Well, let's help me and our listeners understand or be reminded of then what followed after this original 1992 film. So 2 theatrical sequels, right?
Yeah.
D2 and D3. And then also, as I recall, there was a Mighty Ducks
animated
series.
Which,
and there might be some other things. And then also there was a Disney Plus series that came out for a minute. Anyway, if you could step us through these items and help me get cleared in my brain, and then also what you thought about them, because I haven't watched any of them, I was sorry. I guess I didn't take the time to watch the Game Changers one, because that's I think been pulled, right? As all the
you can't watch it anymore. That's the thing with that.
Yeah,
although
stuff that's been pulled. Hopefully they're going to put it out on.
Yeah. And aside to that, with now knowing that like Mando and Loki and some of those are going to be getting physical, that gives me like slight hope.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Maybe they'll do those.
Yeah,
hopefully, even if it's just like a Disney movie club like exclusive thing, which was the only way I could get these movies on Blu-ray to begin with, which that bummed me out too, because Heavyweight's got like all these bonus features and stuff and a regular Blu-ray release that like audio commentary and like all these making of things, which Heavyweights is a great movie and it was popular itself, but like the Mighty Ducks got like kind of like shuttled off to Disney Movie Club exclusive, and it's nice to have them just on the Blu-rays, but that's literally that's all that's on there. It'd been awesome to have like, even just an audio commentary with Stephen Brill talking about it. But so D2 came out in 1994, and then so that's, if people are watching a video of that, that's what the US Team USA jersey is here.
Yes.
That's where the Jolly Roger logo got introduced. That debuted the logo that the actual NHL team would use. So in that one, the team, after they won the championship in the first movie, go on to compete in the Junior Goodwill Games in California, and then that one introduces some new players to the team. Some of the actors that joined this one are some other people that were also in the Sandlot, like the main kid from the Sandlot, Luis. Joins in this. You have Kenny Wu shows up in this one too. I forgot to mention him in the first one, but Matt Doherty as Averman. Averman's always been awesome throughout all of the movies too. And this movie kind of started the thing that would happen between the 3 movies too, is like some of the Ducks would fall off in between these. Like not everybody that was in that first movie comes back for the second one. So like Carpin, like Danny Tamborelli and a few others don't come back for the second one. And then like Jesse actually doesn't come back for the third one either too, even though he was in, and his brother's not. So Jesse and his brother were in the first movie, but Jesse's brother isn't in the second movie, just Jesse.
Okay, interesting. So that's what I wanted to ask you, because I think I saw D2. I don't think I saw D3. But it seemed to me that much of the cast returned for that sequel. That was just a couple years after, including Emilio Estevez, right?
Yeah. And D2 also introduces the Bash brothers with Fulton and Dean Portman in that, where they like basically become like the enforcers on the team. The second movie is also one that introduces Kenan Thompson as Russell Tyler and the Knuckle Puck. If anyone, that became like a very popular thing from that. I really liked the second one a lot too as a kid. It has sort of the same exact storyline as the first movie a little bit.
Yeah,
very slightly, just because it kind of has Bombay reverting back a little bit, like regressing to
just being like super competitive jerk.
Yeah, and like they call him Coach Blood in the movie, and there's like this whole sequence of him like doing photo shoots and stuff with like for the Hendrix sports brand that Hendrix shows back up later on in Game Changers as like a little like Easter egg in there, and this one also had like their competition against Iceland, who they'd go on to. Like Iceland was basically the Hawks of D2. Okay. Also has like Julia Gaffney kind of takes over as the goalie in this one too. So there's like that whole kind of thing with her and Goldberg. But I liked this one a lot too. It's cool too because like by the end of the movie, spoiler alert, they switch out from the Team USA jersey to the Jolly Roger-esque Ducks jersey,
which what the professional team was wearing, right? Wasn't that what the NHL team? Yeah. Okay.
And then after that one came D3. So I'll do the movies first, so we can touch on like because the animated series is kind of very tangential. It's not like connected.
Yeah, it's not really other than the name, right? And I guess and then it's hockey. It's not. There aren't like characters or whatever. It's like this whole new. It's like ducks, animated ducks, right?
Yeah, they're anthropomorphic ducks from the planet Puck World.
Yeah,
which are ducks that like the entire planet like is super into hockey. Wild Wing, who is like the mascot for the actual duck team, he's like the leader of them in the animated series, and like the mask that's on the Jolly Roger like logo, when he puts that on, it gives him like powers in that, and it like becomes gold. There's like, nice. And they actually are the Mighty Ducks team on the planet Earth in the show.
Okay. So do they play against human players or? Okay.
And there's like a whole like alien, like evil alien guy. It's like it's very 90s Disney. It was part of the Disney Afternoon block of animation.
Yeah.
So it's like if you watched any of the Disney Afternoon animation stuff, it's very within that
same
stuff.
Look and feel of those. How many seasons did it run, Mark? And when did it start too?
So that one, I want to say, I'm trying to remember that one. So they released it first as like a straight to VHS movie. It was like it was called Mighty Ducks the movie.
Oh yeah,
the first Face Off came out in 1996.
Okay,
and I don't remember exactly how many episodes the animated series was. So
it's coming back to me. Direct to video, yeah.
So it's 26 episodes. But yeah, it was a interesting show. But yeah, so that came out the same year as D3. The TV series. I liked it when it was on. I think I have a McDonald's toy somewhere that's nosedive from it. It's
how
like a
could you
puck.
Not, Mark? I mean, it
was Mighty Ducks.
I bet it was, and I bet it was fun. I didn't pay any attention to it, but I think it's because a little older and not into it. But still, I bet it was fun.
Jim Belushi did a voice in it.
Nice.
Yeah,
and all the Disney.
So, and then the third one that came out in 1996, and in that one, the team basically gets scholarships to a prep school. So think Mighty Ducks meets Dead Poet Society, kind of.
Let's go to college.
where they have to take on a varsity. So like the Hawks or the Iceland team in this one, they all kind of follow the same formula,
right?
But I don't care. Where they take on like a varsity team in that. So this one, like you said, even though they're in high school, technically it is very college prank-esque type, like Animal House type stuff, where they like Charlie and the rest of the ducks put like horse poop like in the varsity teams like sandwiches and stuff because they are giving them crap. They put ants like in their beds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This one also, Emilio Estevez is more or less kind of like a and featuring Emilio
Okay.
because he's like in the opening.
He's a presence, but he's not really in the movie.
Yeah, and then he kind of comes back at the end for the last game.
He's like there in the crowd for the last game or something.
Yeah, but this one introduces Coach Ryan, which is Jeff Nordling, who plays that. And in this, like, Charlie kind of doesn't really want to deal with he doesn't want like Bombay to leave because he built the team and he's stuck with them, like all of that from the other films. So he doesn't really want to accept like the new coach's ways of doing things. So he kind of drops off the team and for a while and comes back. There's a whole sequence with him and Fulton just kind of not being on the team. And like, he eventually comes around and like he and the new coach, come to like an agreement with one another, kind of like he sees what he's trying to do and everything like that. This one also, Paul Correa has like a cameo in it as himself.
Okay.
Who randomly like comes to like the game at the end
of
the year.
Is that this game at the college?
Yeah. And then like that one ends with the Ducks winning again. And that's one of the things that Bombay does at the end, is that like a banner comes down and the team at the prep school at that point was like the Warriors or something like that. So at the end, that thing comes down and says Eden Hall Mighty Ducks. I have a shirt somewhere too with that on it, where it's like the Eden Hall colors, but with the Ducks logo. And they're just like, look what Bombay did. So it's like basically the Ducks have now become like the Eden Hall team. And then after that, like nothing else came out for like a long time until Game Changers in 2021.
Okay, so Game Changers it seems to me that I remember being announced almost like around launch, Disney Plus launch, right? Like this was upcoming, but it didn't actually get put on Disney Plus until 2021.
Yeah, it debuted in March of 2021.
Okay,
and so that one, like the lead was Lauren Graham.
Yes,
who also produced it. Stephen Brill came back as a writer for the show too, as well.
Does Emilio Estevez show up at all?
Yeah, he's all through the first season of the show, and they eventually kind of incorporate him into it, and he like owns like this ice rink called the Ice Palace, and he's again regressed basically almost all the way back to Bombay from Ducks 1.
Yeah.
But then has essentially the same journey from the first movie with this like new group of kids.
The same character arc.
Yeah, and like Lauren Graham, her son in it is a kid named Evan, who is so in this too. Like when the show starts, the Ducks, as a franchise within like the universe of the show and whatnot, has become they've essentially become the Hawks.
Okay.
Now, and it
very successful.
Because of everything that
club
the original team did and everything, they've become like this whole like juggernaut of whatnot and everything. Evan's on that team; he gets cut from it, so then Lauren Graham forms a team with her son and then a bunch of other kids that are, kind of fit like the same kind of archetypes from the first movie in there. And so that's where it comes in with like Bombay eventually like teaching them some of the same stuff like soft hands and whatnot. There's a fan favorite episode in that first season that's called Spirit of the Ducks, which was like the 6th episode. And that episode had a lot of the original Ducks actors come back. So like Adam Banks, Connie Moreau, Fulton, Aberman, Gee, and Kenny Wu all show back up in that episode.
So fans were probably super stoked about that episode. Okay,
and you learn a little bit more about like what happened to some other characters. They mention like that there was apparently some kind of falling out between Charlie and Bombay at one point, which this will lead me to why I'm bummed, kind of like how the story and like the franchise ends in the way that it did. Is so like season 1 was really good. I liked how it all wrapped up. They eventually get the Ducks name back and everything like that. They take back like the old District 5 kind of jerseys for it too. But with the second season, it was they basically they go to like a hockey training camp kind of thing. And in that season, it was what's his name? I always get Josh Duhamel is basically like I guess would be like the Coach Orion equivalent in this season.
Gotcha.
But because
there always has to be one. Right?
Yeah, because between season 1 and season 2, Emilio Estevez and Disney had a whole falling out about vaccinations and COVID and everything. So basically they talk about Bombay very quickly and how he has to stay at the Ice Palace to help fix things up. And then talk about him very briefly at the end.
Oh wow, yeah.
And that's about it. Eldon Henson and forgetting his name, but Fulton and Dean Portman show up in that first episode of the season, working in construction. So you see a little bit of them in there. And there's another Spirit of the Ducks episode in this season, where it's since they're in California in that season, they go to the actual Honda Center, which used to be the Arrowhead Pond of Anaheim.
Right.
And in that, they meet like some of the current day,
current team.
Yeah. And in that, like their tour guide shows them this wall that they have in the stadium, like underneath with like all the staff that has like all the characters from the movies. Like they have like a Hall of Fame wall for like the original
Nice.
Ducks.
Okay.
They have like a whole. It seemed like they were setting something up to have like Keenan come in as like Russ or something at some point in the season, but that didn't happen for whatever reason because they like really highlight a photo of Russ Tyler and really talk about the knuckle puck in there too. So and then like one of the kids on the team ends up taking up doing the knuckle puck in this season too. But what kind of is a bummer is that season ends, and because Bombay wasn't in it, they weren't really able to incorporate anybody else. I liked how like it was kind of being its own thing, but it felt a lot smaller and like if you had taken the Ducks like naming off of it, it could have just been like it could have like essentially like that John Stamos basketball shot, the big shot. You could have just called it like slap shot, whatever. And it wouldn't have had any like Ducks relation to it.
Yeah,
and that's kind of where the Ducks story ends now too, which is a bummer because, like you said, you couldn't watch Game Changers because it's not on Disney Plus.
It's not on. I told that. Yeah,
that's the bummer to me is that like that's now technically how the Ducks story ends, and in that world, Bombay and Conway still have had a falling out, so it's like a very like sad ending that has like no resolution to it for the two of them.
Yeah.
So if you're a person that's like followed, I guess, the story from the first movie from '92 all the way to Game Changer, and I watched all of it because of how much I liked it.
Well, it's simple,
And the second season definitely isn't anywhere near as good as the first season, but I just stuck through it just because I was like, I like the Ducks. I'm going to watch this. So
that's right. I am on the
see it through to the very end, and I'm glad that
good thing you did.
Brady Noon is doing well now too because he's Raphael in the Mutant Mayhem movies. So, and I am glad that I finished it when I did because if I hadn't, then I wouldn't have had a way to watch it.
You would have had a way to watch it.
I still have no way to finish Willow. So
I know, same thing. Mark, one of the things that I had wondered about just as an outsider looking in, because again, I didn't, had I known that they were going to pull the series, I might have probably been more interested in tuning in, but I thought it was an interesting decision that they brought in Laura Graham, I like her. Nothing against her.
Yeah.
It just seemed to me that it would have been a lot more fun if they had brought in one of the kids to be the coach. You know what I mean? Someone to add some a level of continuity or something. Again, I'm not the one to make that kind of a call, but it just seemed that to me seemed kind of weird.
If I
as an
recall
outsider.
correctly, I think that is primarily because she was like one of the showrunner
She's
and
one of the
producers,
showrunners,
like
yeah.
with getting it to be made too. But I think the other thing with that too is that like the clear choice, like most people would have wanted, if it wasn't going to be Bombay being the coach, they would want like Joshua Jackson in the show
exactly.
as Charlie doing that.
I know nothing, but like, yeah, that's what
yeah. But like Joshua Jackson is like so busy doing doing all this other stuff. Yeah. And I think I read somewhere too that like he likes doing like one-off things now.
Oh, okay.
So like he usually doesn't want to be involved with things that he knows are going to be going on and on. But and it would still have been cool to have him like show up in like that Spirit of the Ducks episode.
Right. Be there for part of an episode.
Yeah, I guess the other thing that first season had going against it too is like they were shooting it during the height of COVID too. So like the people that they did get into it were like the only people that could get up to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And also, sit for 2 weeks and wait and then film.
Yeah.
So like, I think it was like a perfect storm of stuff kind of holding stuff back. Cause like, I think I read something else. Stephen Brill said that Keenan wanted to come on and do something as Russ. And he said that Joshua Jackson did want to also come on and do that, but like just timing and all of that
all of the stuff
didn't. So
like, what a horrible time to try to put together a show, right? With all these obstacles.
Yeah.
How many episodes were each? Oh, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say, I kind of hope that they do. I don't know if it was 20 episodes total, so it was 10 episodes of the first season, 10 episodes of the second season.
Okay.
But I don't know. I kind of, because of how it ends, I hope that they do a full movie in some way.
Yeah.
There's. I don't want to take anybody away from your podcast, but there's a Mighty Ducks podcast that it's called the Quack Attack.
Yeah. So to say
that
this is just a little dip. Usually, for the major one, right? Let's go to that.
They do an episode every other week, I think, or maybe every week, about the Mighty Ducks movies. So they've had people come on there that wrote in like fan fiction about like what a fourth movie would be and stuff, and they do like their own kind of like fan ratings and stuff. They've had Stephen Brill on there. They've had a bunch of the kids that were on Game Changers on there too, and they did like episode reviews after each of those 20 episodes came out. But like if you are watching or listening to this episode Stanford's doing for movies past and present, and you're like, I want more Ducks. After you finish listening to it, that is the place to go for all the Mighty Ducks-ness that you could ever quack at.
I'll add a link to it in the podcast notes. So,
I have no association with them. I've never met those guys.
Yeah, happy to help spread the love for the Mighty Ducks. Okay, so Mark, for somebody who I guess kind of like myself, who's really a neophyte, to the Mighty Ducks universe, what would you recommend as far as and I guess also part of the challenge is where can you watch it, because maybe you can see the 3 movies, but the animated series is probably not on Disney Plus anywhere or anywhere. Is it on YouTube? Does someone have it on YouTube? Bootlegs?
The animated series actually is on Disney Plus.
Oh, okay.
And the second and third movie so the only Ducks things that aren't on Disney Plus are the Disney Plus original
the Disney Plus
TV series.
Specifically made series.
Yeah.
Which they've
and
pulled.
That's a whole tax thing. But
but
if you want to watch all of the rest of the Ducks related things that aren't Game Changers, those are still on Disney Plus.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go check out that TV series, because if I watched it, I don't remember. I don't remember. I thought, as I was just doing a little bit of research, I saw like a picture of the anthropomorphic, hockey players.
Yeah, just when you watch it, be in the mindset of this was made at the same time as the original DuckTales.
Yeah.
The original Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Tailspin,
Bonkers, Gargoyles, all that stuff. Yeah. So it's very of its time.
Mark, are there any other words of wisdom you can give us about the Mighty Ducks? Words of wisdom or words of gratitude?
The Quack Attack is back, Jack. And I told them that you were the real Minnesota Miracle Man.
Nice. Well, Mark, this has just been an absolute blast. Thanks for enlightening us all with the Ducks, and also just sharing in your fandom, because I just think it's fantastic. Mark, where can people find you on social media?
They can find me on Twitter. Yes, Twitter. At just my first and last name, Mark with a C.
Mark with a C.
Vibbert with Stanford on Animation Fascination. All the stuff has Linktree. So if you search Linktree and then my name, or Linktree and Animation Fascination, or Linktree and Hold a Maneuver, you'll find all the things related to me and stuff that I talk about. And Stanford's been on Holdo, he's been on Animation. Animation Fascination is me and Stanford. So if you like hearing Stanford talk on this, you want to hear Stanford talk more, you can also hear him on Animation Fascination as well.
Thank you, Mark. Well, it's been so much fun. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for sharing stuff with us. This has just been a blast.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that
always
does
happy
it
to talk about the Mighty Ducks.
Oh, this has been so much fun. Thank you. And I'm excited. I'm going to be adding some stuff to my queue. Well, that does it for this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Links and more information about the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my blog at moviespastandpresent.com. Subscribe to the podcast where you listen to your podcasts, and follow me on Instagram. I'm at moviespap, as in past and present. As always, I hope you will enjoy some good movies this week, whether they be from the past or the present, and watch some Mighty Ducks stuff, right? Thanks again for listening. Until next time, be safe out there and dedicate yourself to the truth.